Hello, welcome to a special edition of the EdTech at EPISD podcast.
The Active Learning Department will be hosting the Active and Blended Learning Conference on November 16th, and Kevin Honeycutt will be our guest speaker.
We had the opportunity to speak with Kevin to learn a little about him and what to expect from his upcoming visit.
Hi, good morning. Today we have Kevin with us. Thank you, Kevin, for taking the time to meet with us today. And we are super excited to have the opportunity to introduce you to our teachers here in a few weeks in El Paso.
So good morning, Kevin. Before we begin our conversation, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Wow. Okay. Let me see. Encapsulate this here. Okay. So go all the way back. I'm a kid who grew up in poverty and foster homes. I traveled all over because my dad broke the law a lot, so we moved. So I've lived in 22 states growing up. So I learned to be that kid that can make the 5-minute friend. I had all kinds of skills because you develop skills when you live that way, but school never measured those skills. So I always felt like, I don't know, I was working against the system, you know. Anyway, fast forward a little bit here. I kind of figured some things out. I figured out how to handle my ADHD, and I figured out how to work with my dyslexia. I call it lexdixia because it makes sense to me. And I became an art teacher, a colorblind art teacher. So again, I always had some liabilities, worked along with it there. But the minute I had a classroom, I knew I was going to set that classroom up so that I could bend the system to match the kid and never bend the kid to match the system. So I spent 13 years just sort of collecting lost kids who came to my room and became my kids. And you guys, I know there's a bunch. I'm never going to be rich, but I'm always going to be wealthy, you know, because my wealth is just tied up in kids. So I spent my time doing that for a long time. And then finally, I was speaking at a conference. Didn't even mean to, but I got noticed by somebody who thought I was pretty good at that. So they offered me a job. So then again, for the last 16, almost 17 years, I've been doing staff development, PD, with teachers. And I'll tell you, my world hasn't changed that much, except teachers are harder. And I love them. But, you know, they got things to do. They got papers to grade. They can be somewhere else. So you better be interesting. You better be relevant. So, you know, 17 years on the road of that all over the world. I've got a little bit of experience there, and I've seen some of the most amazing schools on the planet. And so inside my head are examples of, you know, using technology to help kids find their future, using STEM, using STEAM, finding ways to activate, to launch kids so they leave scorch marks on the tile, you know. So I'm kind of a zealot like I've always been, but now I've just got a pocket full of tools, all kinds of things that teachers can use. And I love time to talk to them and share those things with them.
And I know they're going to love you as much as we do. In fact, the three of us had the opportunity to hear you speak here in El Paso probably about 10 years ago. We were looking this up. 10 years ago. And we wanted to share with you that you made such an impact 10 years ago that we were still thinking about, you know, gosh, it would be great to have a wonderful guest speaker who lives it, right? Who loves kids, integrates technology, makes learning active and fun and enjoyable and for a real purpose. And of course, you came to mind. And so we're so excited that we're going to have teachers have that opportunity. But can I share with you that we all have one thing that we want to share back, what we remember from 10 years ago?
Sure.
Okay, so I remember you speaking to a host of teachers, and I remember feeling a little bit down about some of the things that I was doing. I was hearing a lot of, Karen, don't do that because everyone's going to want us to do that. Everyone's going to expect us to do that. Stop it, Karen. Stop it. Don't do that. Don't publish that blog. And I remember feeling kind of really sad about the things that I was excited about. And I remember hearing you speak about why we do things and to re-remember that why. And I was doing that to help my teachers, not to help the people around me, but the teachers, my main focus. And for that, I just want you to know it just helped keep me going and keep learning and doing things for the right reason.
Nice. Wow. That's so cool. All right. Wow.
Okay, so I remember, again, it was 10 years ago, probably when we were doing the T3 grant, I think is what we figured out the timeline was. And at that time, you had just started or were working on your Art Snacks website. And so at that time, I was working with a lot of GT kids, trying to incorporate their novel units and also doing a lot of art. And I've always been interested in art. So I remember going onto the site, looking at different ideas, reading some of the comments and the feedback from some of the kids that were using your lessons. And so I really enjoyed taking the time to use that resource.
Wow. It's still going. Wow. About 30,000 kids and teachers there now. Yeah. It's not perfect. I always say it's Bob Ross on a budget.
You know, and I remember your sessions got me interested in recording and adding music. We're starting the podcast now, which is really cool. And it was so exciting to see that because realized that it didn't need to be perfect, because as teachers we strive for perfection and we're always holding off because it isn't. I realized that it just needed to be good for us and for the students. It wasn't always going to be perfect, and it depended really on the age level. You know, sometimes even the little ones came very close to doing a great recording, where our high schoolers were so worried and focused on perfection that they didn't even try. So you taught us to try, and that was really fun.
Cool. So I always say perfect is the enemy of done. I believe there's a definition of it, perfectly imperfect. You know, there are people who will take student art and they'll clean it up and make it prettier. Pinterest perfect, you know what I mean? And then there are people who know that the way the kid did it in the first place is perfect. I think that second thing is what you're doing now, and I think that's what we have to honor. I think sometimes we feel this external pressure to be something we're not. So it's about, I think, getting better at serving kids is not about trying harder. It's about letting go just a little bit. Letting go, you know? Letting them be who they are. But anyway, this has been so much fun. I cannot believe that you guys remember anything from 10 years ago. I'm not sure I remember anything from this morning.
It just proves that we were paying attention and that you were interesting to us.
Yes.
You hooked us.
This is the first of 4 videos in the series. Keep an ear out for upcoming episodes or subscribe to our podcast on YouTube.